Good evening, everyone. I'm Carol Olson-Day of the New York Times, and I'm delighted to welcome you to the 11th Annual Arts and Leisure Weekend. And tonight, we are very excited to present the director and producer whose name is synonymous with award-winning documentary. One of our recent TimesTalks guests, Roger Ebert, said that our guest is a magician and as great a filmmaker as Hitchcock or Fellini. His latest film, Tabloid, is his 9th feature-length documentary. In addition to being awarded the film industry's highest accolades, including the Oscar and the Emmy, his work has been the subject of a full retrospective at the Museum of Modern Art. And in 2007, he was inducted into the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. Fortunately for us, he's also a contributor to nytimes.com, where the essays in his acclaimed new book, Believing is Seeing, first appeared. He'll be signing copies of the book after the discussion. Recently, millions of Times readers watched his short film, The Umbrella Man. It was one of the most viewed and most emailed items when it appeared as an op-doc on the newly expanded opinion pages section of new short original documentaries called Opdocs on nytimes.com. You'll hear much more about this singular talent and his work from our moderator. He has been a deputy op-ed editor at the Times for the past 6 years. Before that, he was a writer and editor for such magazines as Vanity Fair and New York. He's also the co-author of the book Spy, The Funny Years, an anthology and history of the satirical magazine. He knows our guest well. He is his editor for the Opinionator blog on nytimes.com. So please join me in welcoming George Kalogerakis and our special guest, Errol Morris.
Hello, Errol. Nice
Hi,
to see you.
George.
And hello, everyone. Thanks for coming to this. I thought we might start with The Umbrella Man, since probably not all of you have seen it. And as Carol said, this is a part of our OpDoc series, which is curated by my colleague, Jason Spingarn-Koff. And we hope Errol will be doing more films for us, short films online at the Times site. So why don't we show that right now?
I should just say one short thing. I believe I became a documentary filmmaker because of writer's block. That I was really unable to write anything for years and years and years. And then out of nowhere, really out of nowhere, I got a call from this local newspaper, the New York Times, asking me to write for the opinion pages. George and David Chipley. And I said, well, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can really write anything, let alone op-ed pieces for the Times. But much to my amazement, now, I don't know how many years it's been.
15, 20.
15, 20 or more years, I have produced an enormous amount of writing, part of which has been collected in a book, Believing is Seeing. And so I can honestly say, well, I owe my one of my current jobs to this man over here, and I owe my job to, including my appearance here, to the New York Times, so thank you.
Errol's too kind as usual. Basically, all I do is take his phone calls, and for that, he's very grateful. And
I am indeed,
so,
absolutely.
Anyway, thanks. Shall we show it?
In December 1967, John Updike was writing Talk of the Town for the New Yorker, and he spent most of that Talk of the Town column talking about the Umbrella Man. He said that his learning of the existence of the Umbrella Man made him speculate that in historical research, there may be a dimension similar to the quantum dimension in physical reality. If you put any event under a microscope, you will find a whole dimension of completely weird, incredible things going on. It's as if there's the macro level of historical research where things sort of obey natural laws and usual things happen and unusual things don't happen. And then there's this other level where everything is really weird. On November 22nd, it rained the night before, but everything cleared by about 9 or 9:30 in the morning. So if you were looking at various photographs of the motorcade route and the crowds gathered there, you will have noticed nobody's wearing a raincoat. Nobody has an open umbrella. Why? Because it's a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. And then I noticed in all of Dallas, there appears to be exactly one person standing under an open black umbrella. And that person is standing where the shots begin to rain into the limousine. Let us call him the Umbrella Man.
Did you name the Umbrella Man?
Yes. You can see him in the certain frames from the Zapruder film standing right there by the Stemmons Freeway sign. There are other still photographs taken from other locations in Dealey Plaza which show the whole man standing under an open black umbrella. The only person under any umbrella in all of Dallas standing right at the location where all the shots come into the limousine. Can anyone come up with a non-sinister explanation for this? So I published this in 6 seconds, but didn't speculate about what it meant or got into any of the conspiracy theories, because everybody else got into the conspiracy theories. There was one wingnut who published a book with a diagram of the umbrella. The umbrella was rigged so that there was an aiming device and there was a rocket tube that you could fire a flechette directly into Kennedy's throat.
The Umbrella Man is the real assassin.
That was the idea. That was the source of the hole in the throat, folks, right? Well, I asked that the Umbrella Man come forward and explain this, right? So he did. He came forward and he went to Washington with his umbrella, and he testified in 1978 before the House Select Committee on Assassinations. He explained then why he had opened the umbrella and was standing there that day. The open umbrella was a kind of protest, a visual protest. It wasn't a protest of any of John Kennedy's policies as president. It was a protest at the appeasement policies of Joseph P. Kennedy, John Kennedy's father, when he was ambassador to the Court of St. James in 1938 and 39. It was a reference to Neville Chamberlain's umbrella. I read that and I thought, this is just wacky enough. It has to be true. And I take it to be true. What it means is that if you have any fact which you think is really sinister, right? Is really obviously a fact which can only point to some sinister underpinnings, hey, forget it, man, because you can never on your own think up all the non-sinister, perfectly valid explanations for that fact. A cautionary tale.
It's funny when he said that if you look closely at anything, you'll find completely weird, incredible things going on. It sounds like the foundation for a career in film or books, maybe.
Well, it certainly has been. A cautionary tale because it asks us to look behind appearances more deeply into things. It didn't occur to me until after it had run in the Times that it was very much in keeping. I guess I made it, so maybe this shouldn't be so surprising to me, but in keeping with many of the things that currently interest me about photography and our tendency to read things into images that are really based on pure fantasy, pure conjecture, and the need actually to investigate. And one of the great things about writing for the Times for me is that I am an investigator at heart. I write, I make films, but what I really like to do is investigate things, dig into things of one kind or another. This clip, based on the work of Josiah Thompson. Thompson has fascinated me for years. I was an out-of-work filmmaker some 20 years ago and worked as a private detective. That was my means of employment. And I knew about Tink because of this article that had appeared in the New Yorker written by Calvin Trillin. We worked for the same detective, but not at the same time, and always wanted to meet him. Ex-Kierkegaard scholar, professor of philosophy at Haverford, authority on the Zapruder film, and now a private detective in Northern California. So, among other things, this was an incredible opportunity for me to finally meet him and talk to him. And I did a 7-hour interview. This is a small piece of it.
You said to me on the phone the other day that you miss being Errol Morris PI. You want to crack a case again or something, but you've been doing that all along in different ways, right? I had this incredible good fortune. I don't know how else to describe it. To stumble on a case, a miscarriage of justice in Texas. I made a movie, The Thin Blue Line, but beyond the movie, what I'm most proud of is the investigation. I got an innocent man out of prison, a man who had been sentenced to death for a crime he didn't commit. And I got the real killer to confess, which doesn't really happen every day. I don't think it's ever going to happen again. I'm glad it happened once. But yes, I do have this urge to go back and investigate things. I mean, there's some great pleasure in that. Because you don't know what you're going to find out. That's what's the great part of it. Well, you do that in the writing that you've done for us as well. And one of the things I think probably some people here wonder about as well is when you start to research something, what sends you in the direction of film and what in the direction of writing? And I know it switches. I'm thinking of one of my favorite investigations of yours that I haven't seen yet is spontaneous human combustion,
Yeah.
which started as an idea for a series of pieces and now maybe a film or the other way around. How do you go one way or the other?
Well, it was easy to go one way or the other 20 years ago. My wife often points out that there are entire television channels devoted to ideas that people wanted to have nothing to do with. Yeah, I wanted to do a story about the fattest man in the world. No, probably there's the Fat Channel with 7 or 8 different versions of that same story. I wanted to do a story about spontaneous human combustion. I don't know if there's a channel yet on SHC, as it's known to aficionados. But yeah, I would do these proposals for movies. There must be some 20 of them that really never got made. And mercifully, that has changed over the years. And I look at this man over here, this very kind man. I mentioned that I had a project that had been abandoned years ago on spontaneous human combustion. This is not a natural, I would say, fit for the New York Times. However, notwithstanding, he expressed enormous interest in it.
No, it's part of taking the phone calls.
And yeah, I remember the best part of it for me, I had interviewed this guy, Larry Arnold, greatest living expert on SHC and part-time school bus driver. And we had done this long interview in his house in Pennsylvania, western Pennsylvania. And he became very, very serious at the end of the interview, and he said, Errol, you know, the important thing to remember about SHC is it's on the increase.
So you have to do this in some form or another. There are a couple of others. I'll just throw them out. Errol's got this the Guano project, as I think of it, which threatens to take over, but he hasn't delivered it yet. That might be a film too, right? I mean, that gets into so many different.
I'm trying to think of the instances where George said no.
Sure he did.
But there have been very, very few and far between.
I wondered about the Ashtray, and then we ran it, and it turned into a book, right?
Yeah, the University of Chicago Press is publishing the Ashtray as a book. From not being able to write at all, I have 3 books under contract, one which came out this fall, the second one, which comes out in the middle of next year, and then a 3rd book based on the series that ran in the Times, The Ashtray. So from writer's block to graphomania, a series of easy steps. When I handed in my 3rd essay to the Times, which was in multi-parts, I think it was some 26,000 words or something like that. Maybe it was even longer, I can't really remember. George said to me, "We can't publish that." And I said, "Well, you're not publishing it. It's just a couple of shovels of sand in the electronic pages of the Times." And
well, you know, if you're familiar with Errol's stuff that he does for us, not the film stuff, but the written stuff, I mean, part of the pleasure of it is this cumulative impact as he goes deeper and deeper into the research. And I have one cheap sight gag. This is the first thing he sent me. He turned this in several years ago, and I thought I'll print it out and read it on the subway. And this is not one of the longest ones either. But, you know, yeah, I would say the writer's block is in remission. But Anyway, one more thing from your website. I found this on the homepage not that long ago. Errol posted something that went, "I am in better shape now. My book on amphibian levitation just arrived." Is that turning into anything? I'm just curious.
Not quite yet, but the book was really good. It was from Harvard University Press, of all places. And as a result of my enthusiasm for amphibian levitation, they've given me all kinds of freebies, so.
What a racket, what a racket.
I know, it's amazing.
Do you want to talk about this? The first essay was about cannonballs, photos of cannonballs from 1855, and your ideas come, I know, sometimes from tabloid headlines, but this one came from Susan Sontag.
Well, she's a tabloid writer of sorts.
Do you want to sort of tell us how that happened and we have some slides?
Sure. I had read, this is a more recent book on photography, her second book, her second famous book on regarding the suffering of others, talking about war photography. And she had mentioned this famous photograph. Some people consider it the first war photograph by Roger Fenton, taken in the Crimea in 1855. And it is a mysterious photograph. I believe every photograph, in some way, has that question hidden inside of it. What am I looking at? What really is this a picture of? And I think that's very much true of that Fenton photograph entitled The Valley of the Shadow of Death, obviously taken from the 23rd Psalm, but as the case may be, named by the soldiers who were forced to be there. It was a gully just outside of Sebastopol, which was under constant Russian bombardment, cannonballs raining down on this area. And it's one of the first, among other things, examples of trench warfare, something that became familiar, a half a century or more later in World War I. People in trenches, shelling each other, fronts which really didn't move in any direction, people just sitting and dying. Sontag had made a claim that the photograph was posed. And, this is just me. Maybe I wish there was some kind of drug regimen that would eliminate these thoughts. But I don't know of one. And I'm certainly open to recommendations from the audience. I started to wonder, how does she know it was posed? What is really the nature of this claim? Can we just show these photographs quickly?
Okay.
Fenton made a mistake. I think you would have to call it a mistake. He took more than one photograph. And what happens when you take more than one photograph is that people have a tendency to ask which one is true and which one is false. Or sometimes they'll say, well, which one is more true than the other? You should show both of them.
Okay, there's one.
Okay. Now these photographs actually were taken same tripod position. Camera was fixed. If you go to the trouble, you can actually adjust them so that they match. Since this is on a substance brushed onto a glass plate collodion. It runs slightly, it doesn't match, you have to kind of adjust it. But these are basically, it's the same photograph, but they're cannonballs on the road in this one. And if we want to look at the other one, there are no cannonballs on the road in that one. And I affectionately nicknamed them Off and On. Well, it's just like the Umbrella Man, really. You look at something like this, and maybe we're wired up this way. We look at them and we say, well, why is that one different than the other? What happened between them? Which one came first? What's the order of them? What actually happened? Sontag's conjecture, and forgive me if I am not capturing her argument absolutely precisely. Sontag's argument was that the photograph with the cannonballs on the road was posed. That Fenton had taken those cannonballs. She says something to the effect that he had orchestrated their distribution on the road, which to me suggested not only was she saying that he posed the photograph, but he was a lazy bastard. That he got other people to do the cannonball lifting for him rather than just place them there himself. And so I decided to investigate this. And the investigation actually, guess what? It took me to the Crimea. My friend Ron Rosenbaum, it's how my essay begins, said to me, he said, you don't mean you went all the way to the Crimea because of one sentence in Susan Sontag? And I said, no, actually it was 2 sentences. But in fact, I did. And we can show some of the other stills quickly.
Yeah.
I don't want to belabor any of this. This is my holding the Fenton photograph, and this is what was behind it. The next one. We actually believe we found the exact location in the Crimea. This was something that really fascinated me. It turns out that this parcel of land is for sale. And so I got very excited. I thought, you know, lots of people can read the 23rd Psalm, but how many people can own the 23rd Psalm? And then I thought, you know, Valley of the Shadow of Death, timeshares. It could work.
Could work, could work. Should we go to the next one?
Yeah, let's see what the, I don't even know.
What you got here.
Oh yeah, I went to the museum in Sebastopol, and they very kindly, I think they thought I was quite mad, they very kindly agreed to give me some cannonballs to work with, actually, Crimean War cannonballs. And this is us with one of them, trying to measure sun angles and such. And the next one.
Move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very scientific research.
Yeah, just trying to figure out what time. Fenton very kindly had written in his journal, actually letters that gave us an idea of what time the photographs were taken. So I went to all of this trouble. So it's an interesting kind of story about investigating. I went to all of this trouble, and I came up with nothing. I wasn't able, from the sun angles, to determine really which came first, or really very much anything about the photographs. And then a friend of mine in Cambridge, Massachusetts, Dennis Purcell, started putting them essentially on a Flickr box. You know, with Photoshop, you can match the 2 photographs perfectly and then flash them back and forth. and in flashing them back and forth, look for slight changes between one photograph and the other. And guess what? The answer was not in the cannonballs, but the answer was in the rocks, peripheral rocks that were scattered about. And as the cannonballs were moved, clearly somebody was walking around there. Fenton was directing people. I have a bad back. Please pick that cannonball up and move it over there. Rocks were dislodged. And by looking at the direction that the rocks moved and seeing that they were going down an incline.
These are the rocks, by the way, right?
Yes, and you can go to the next one. Oh yes, this is, we marked all of the rocks. We named many of them, actually. Next one. We were able to actually order the photographs. And okay, you might say, I assume you are saying, like, good God, man. Why would you do such a thing? And the answer is that it's something that I believe every investigator in his heart believes this, that by scrutinizing details, they may even be absurd details, that you can uncover something about the nature of reality, that you can learn something that without that kind of an investigation would be unknown. I would urge you to read the essay. After all, I'm trying to sell books here. But in the course of looking at these two photographs, I came to a whole number of conclusions about the nature of photography itself, which to me makes the entire enterprise worthwhile. Questions about what it is to pose something, or whether all photographs are posed, whether it makes sense to talk about on being posed and off being unposed, and so on and so forth. Do we have another image?
Yeah, let's see what there is.
I don't want to belabor this. And this is one image that I created. This is a very famous Fenton photograph. And I asked myself that, are photographs potentially posed because they exclude things? After all, you are making a selection. And by imposing a frame on reality, you're including a very, very small number of things and excluding a vast number of things. My question was, isn't there always an elephant just at the edge of the frame?
Do you think, is there such a thing as a straight up fact that you can believe in that's not diluted in some way by perception, or is that just an impossibility? I mean,
well, it's a question, is there such a thing as knowledge? And I think, yes, of course there's such a thing as knowledge. We may have a vested interest in not seeing it, ignoring it, pretending it doesn't exist, but there's a world out there in which things happen. When I spent 2.5 years investigating a murder, the shooting of a Dallas police officer, there's one thing that I knew. I knew that there was a fact of the matter. Someone pulled the trigger. Someone killed the cop. It's not a matter of you know, you think that, I think this. Truth is subjective or relative. No, there's an objective world out there. It may be elusive and very difficult for us to grab a hold of, but it's out there, and it's our job to try to learn something about it. It seems to me the deepest and most important of human enterprises.
Might be time to look at standard operating procedure. That would
Sure.
Because can we see? Do you want to say something first, or should we just look at the excerpt?
You know, in my book, I never mentioned Sontag's involvement with these photographs in Abu Ghraib, but there was a piece that appeared. It's quite an extraordinary piece. I think it's one of the more important essays run in the New York Times. It was in the Sunday magazine. And Sontag, just shortly before her death, had written on regarding the torture of others, which was about the photographs taken at Abu Ghraib. And she shared, along with many, many, many other people, this horror about the photographs and about what the photographs revealed. It's a very important, beautifully written, eloquent essay. But once again, she said something in it which I felt was possibly wrong. It was as if she had looked at the photographs and decided that she knew everything that she needed to know about them. That there was no mystery, no secret, no additional piece of information to be discovered. And I started to wonder. I mean, it was my obsession. I'm eager to move on to something else in my own work, but at that time, an obsession with photography and what it concealed, not so much as what it revealed. And so I decided that I would, to use the magic word, I would try to contextualize those photographs, that I would try to talk to the people who had actually taken the photographs, that I would investigate and try to learn something about the circumstances under which they were taken. Caused me a lot of trouble, I might add, because it's not clear that anybody wanted to know.
So, shall we look at this little excerpt from standard operating procedure? We have stills, but we also have a film clip.
Yeah, let's just go through fast. Let's see. You want to see the clip?
Clip? Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we see that?
We checked him, and sure enough, he had died. And we kind of, I walked out of the room, just kind of like, like nothing happened. And then I asked one of the CIA guy agents, I was like, well, what do you guys normally do in a situation like this? They were kind of not panicky, but they were on their phones calling whoever to see how to see what to do or whatnot. What do we do with them? We can't take them out in a body bag, because that may start a riot. So we had to keep them there overnight. And so we got a body bag, we got a bunch of ice, iced him down, left him in the room where he was at, and then we shut and locked the door. I remember saying to the NCO, you need to take the spare key and hold on to it, or someone will probably go in there and, mess with them. We should have just taken both keys and held on to them instead of leaving one there. But I guess he, had to leave one there in case they wanted to come take the body that night or something. It was pretty much supposed to be, hush hush. Didn't want the word to spread around.
It was a crazy day yesterday. The guy they brought in died. He was beat pretty bad. I'm not sure what happened. It was on the shift before us. They stuck him in a room next to where I was working last night and put him in a body bag on ice. How fucking gross. He's already been defrosting for 24 hours. Captain Brinson had a meeting in the main office with all of us, and he said that there was a prisoner who had died in the shower, and he died of a heart attack. Sergeant Frederick got the key, and we just checked him out. He started to melt, and it started to smell. He was there for at least 24 hours prior to us getting there. So he was there for a pretty long time. His knees were bruised. His thighs were bruised by his genitals. He had restraint marks on his wrist. It was kind of obvious after you just kept looking that there's no way he died of a heart attack.
You've gotten into trouble because of the thumb.
I can understand. It does look really bad. But whenever I would get into a photo, I never know what to do with my hands. Any kind of photo, I probably have a thumbs up because it's just something that automatically happens. Like when you get into a photo, you want to smile. It's just, I guess, something I did.
The thumb comment there reminds me of Tink's comment about the unsinister explanation, although there's plenty of sinister stuff to go around with this rather grisly.
Yeah, why did I show this? I ask myself. Because Sabrina Hartmann, who is demonized for taking many of these pictures, actually saw herself as exposing the crimes that she had seen at Abu Ghraib. There's a kind of irony in a lot of this. Were people punished for having taken the pictures? But what about people who actually committed real crimes there, as, for example, the murder of al-Jamadi, which has never been really punished or accounted for. Yes, it was my attempt to look behind the surface of a photograph and to ask, who were these people that took them, why were they taken, what were they actually showing? I think I shared the same sentiment when I first saw the picture of Sabrina Hartmann with her thumb in the air. The assumption was that she was in some way complicit with the death of this man, that she was complicit in murder, and quite indifferent to the fact that a crime had been committed. And the actual story is far, far more interesting and far more complex. If you look at the whole body of photographs that was taken at that scene, she served more as a forensic photographer and investigator than in any way as an accomplice to murder. She was in no way involved in the murder of this man, and in fact was trying to expose the fact that the murder had been covered up. Anyway, I showed it just because, I don't know.
I have actually a general question that, that some of the audience might want to know too. What is, in the aftermath of your films coming out, what kind of relationship, if any, do you have with your subjects, whether it's Sabrina Hartmann or Robert McNamara or the people from Vernon, Florida, or there's probably a range, or Randall Adams?
There is an extraordinary range. When you make movies about real people, I mean, real people, there's a whole range of real people, as everyone knows. I remain friends with Stephen Hawking, who I made a film based on A Brief History of Time. In fact, my family and I are going tomorrow to Cambridge, England for his 70th birthday party. I adore that man. I think he's, I often tell people I can be cynical about a lot of things, but I can't be cynical about him. He's just quite extraordinary, and it was an amazing opportunity to make that movie with him. Not stress-free. I mean, we had disagreements about the nature of the movie, how the movie should be made. He didn't want it to have elements of his biography. He wanted it to be just about science. And I explained to him, this is true, that the book that he had written, which few people read, but has been sold many, many, many times to many people, is a thinly disguised autobiography. The science and his biography are woven together. And when he finally saw the movie, the finished movie, after a lot of disagreement, I had put his mother in the movie. His mother is just absolutely extraordinary. And he came out of the screening room at CAA and he said, "Thank you for making my mother a star." And on the other hand, constant struggles with Robert S. McNamara. He told his son, who remains a friend of mine, McNamara died a number of years ago, he told his son that he loved the movie, but don't tell Errol that. The guy that I got out of prison sued me when he got out, which was, take my word for it, really, really unpleasant. It's a complicated story. I don't even know how I would the easiest way for me to account for it is that when you're sentenced to death for a crime you didn't commit, and you come within 3 days of being electrocuted in Old Sparky, the Texas electric chair, subsequently switched to lethal injection, I think it might drive you a little crazy. Just my hunch. I never really have held it against Randall Adams, but it really, really depressed me at the time.
And then there's Joyce.
I'm not sure how much detail I should go into. My current film, Tabloid, I'm also being sued. It's not a very good track record. In this case, I can't quite say that it's unexpected, since she is, so incredibly litigious. I mean, I don't know how many people she has sued over the years. I'm at the end of a long, long list, and I suppose my head should be examined for even imagining that I wouldn't be sued. But I still believe, self-serving of me to say so, that I created a truly loving portrait of this woman. And many of the people who see the movie say that she emerges as a likable, lovable, deeply fascinating character. Here's what I do believe about my job. I don't believe documentary filmmakers are supposed to be social workers. I don't believe I'm supposed to be creating thinly disguised advertisements for humanity. It's really great to be human. I don't see that as my job description. Sometimes I refer to myself as a secular anti-humanist. Whether that's true or not, I'll let you decide. I think my job is to capture the complexity of people and the complexity of the environment that they find themselves in. And if I've done that, I think I have done my job. I've learned something about somebody. I've learned something about the situation that they found themselves in. That I've created a new perspective about something. That, I think, is at the heart of at least what I do. But I really don't like being sued. So if any of you have any ideas out there, I would ask you to think twice. You could hurt my feelings.
We've made it almost to the end of the program without any commercial interruption, but that's about to end because Errol has a treat for us. Do you want to just show it, or do you want to?
Well, the last time that I did this, which is, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, I stuck some Miller High Life ads. I've done, probably shouldn't boast, but I make my living through advertising. I've done probably over 1,000 commercials. I've done over 100 Miller High Life commercials alone, and we showed some of those. They're, by the way, my best work. The rest of this is just sort of okay, but those are really good. And but I thought, what the hell? I'll show the first commercial I ever made, and I had just finished The Thin Blue Line, and I'd spent close to 3 years investigating this case. Got the guy out of prison, got the real murderer to confess, blah, 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 blah. And I get an opportunity to direct a campaign for 7-Eleven. Now, the entire Thin Blue Line cost $1.1 million, all in. My 7-Eleven campaign cost $1.7 million, and that was expended in 3 weeks. And they decided that with my passion for social justice, then I should be allowed to film this campaign called Mobile Judge, okay? The idea, if I should set this up very quickly. The idea was to have a 60-foot tractor-trailer combination. On the back of the trailer, a mahogany courtroom built with mobile judge, a court reporter, and a bailiff. And they would cruise the highways of America, judging the quality of convenience stores everywhere. And there was a jingle written by the people who wrote the jingle for Gilligan's Island. They had a very impressive pedigree. And the lyrics were, you know, his diplomas are from Harvard, Princeton, and from Yale. He calls them like he sees them, and then there was the close-up of Mobile Judge. He calls them like he sees them. This hot dog bun is stale. And then the chorus comes in. Mobile Judge.
We should show it. Now that you've reenacted it.
Well, that's what I specialize in. Anyway, this is my very, very first commercial, and I was lucky ever to get additional employment.
Can we see it now, I guess? That was a wonderful setup. Yeah.
18 wheels of justice rolling round the bend, ruling on convenience stores, good taste to defend. His diplomas are from Harvard, Princeton, and from Yale. He calls them like he sees them.
This hot dog bun is stale.
Mobile Judge, Mobile Judge. He'll judge a cup of coffee, a deli sandwich too. Convenience stores, you'd best watch out.
I'll throw the book at you.
Finally, someone is coming who will decide once and for all which convenience store is best. Someone called Mobile Judge.
Mobile Judge, Mobile Judge. So if you sell convenience,
your judgment day is near.
'Cause when you least expect it, he will appear.
Coming to Phoenix to judge the best convenience store.
He's mobile, he's a judge, he's mobile.